Recording in progress. Sorry. So the one of
I'm sorry, should we do everything again, or is that pretty much okay? It was just the acceptance of the minutes.
You just keep going.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
okay
keep
because
going.
Catherine has the minutes. She's been here through the whole thing, just taking the
Cool.
minutes. So they voted to grant the extension to Harbor Light, and one of the provisions of their acceptance is that they would follow up by submitting an article to the 2022 town meeting to revise the conditions. So we're just working on that. We've talked to town council. I'll work with the select board to make sure that that article is presented. So.
Are we presenting that article or are the selectmen presenting?
No,
it?
it's the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, the select board will be presenting it. So one other thing, I got an email from Andrew DeFranza. I've just been asking him about it. I don't know, Joe, if do you talk to Andrew on occasion? Yeah, so it sounds really good for this funding round. No official word yet, but it sounds like they may be getting the funding. So he sent this email to me and just saying things are going well, and he's concerned about interest rates and construction costs. So modeling the budget under different stresses to make sure it works, or thinking about ways to improve the model or bring in new capital. So he's willing to come in and talk to you guys anytime that you want, maybe once we get a new meeting scheduled, and come in and give a little presentation. I think that would be great, so we know really where they stand. They have submitted their building application to the building department so that these units are on our SHI. So we're good. Our SHI is at 12.3% right now, which is very good. It includes the Maple Woods, and it sounds like this project will be getting started soon, we hope. So that was all I had on that update. I don't know if anyone had questions, or if you have your own things that you know or want.
I guess, can I just ask a quick question? Is everybody settled in on the Wenham Pines, the White House, and in the one that we bought and have rented?
Yep. Yes. So I was going to go into a little affordable housing update after.
Okay.
When did you have a question about Maple Woods?
Yeah. My turn to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Question, Margaret. At some point, we were talking about having some type of ceremony or groundbreaking occasion over there at Maple Woods to celebrate the fact that this is going to happen. And I am particularly nervous about the town meeting situation, although everybody else is probably fine. But I know what could happen in town meeting, and particularly this case. So it would be nice if we could meet over there sometime this spring with Andrew, with pick and shovel, and kind of hype it up for get the press there and get it like a little sort of congratulation, preparation, presentation, et cetera, et cetera. I think you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Sure.
Yeah, when you and I are great minds thinking alike. I'm actually going to ask Brad, our state rep, to propose to Baker that when they announce this small round, that they try to do it at Maple Woods. From what we've heard reading between the lines, the money is being allocated, but they're not going to release because Baker wants to make a big announcement about it. So I'm pitching to Brad, if it's okay with the group, I would like to pitch it to Brad to say, hey, if you could get into Baker's ear, we're a relatively affluent town that's focused on this and has been Dukakis has actually leaned on Wenham as a forward-thinking community. So we'd like to see if we can get Baker to actually do it here. Is that something that you guys think?
The only problem is that Brad isn't our state rep anymore.
Oh, well, then thank you for that.
You're welcome. Other than that, it was a lovely presentation.
Well, okay, so I'm happy to still email whoever.
Well, I
was
would think
thinking that, Brad.
it's Bruce Tower would be a state
Yeah.
senator.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I think that Wenham, one of the reasons to invite the governor or as many people as we can is to hype up the fact that Wenham is an example of a community to others who have reached their 10% requirement.
Mhm.
And this is a good chance to highlight that whole thing. So, excuse me, Wenham becomes an example for others to follow.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. Yeah, we'll start to talk that up. I think if we give Andrew that, let Andrew know that's what you're thinking. I'm sure he can run with something like that too. So good idea. Good. So the affordable housing update, just everything's running pretty smoothly. The Habitat for Humanity units have transferred ownership, I think, just this past week. So those two on Hull Street are occupied. And now they own them. The 2 units at Wenham Pines, they've been sold and the people are living there. The Wenham, the little one at the end of Spring Hill is occupied. He seems to love it there. He seems to be doing really well. A young guy got that. And then the rental over on Parsons Hill also is occupied. So I think we're doing pretty well. All of our units are occupied and finished. And now we're just waiting for Maplewoods.
And was there some repair, Joe, that was going on at Friends Court? Did I hear that there was some work that needed to be done over there?
For Friend Court, so Michael's been doing a lot of it himself, and charging it, and we're sharing the fees. He put a new roof on the back porch, and is painting one side of the house at a time. So last year was, I think it was the front. I think outside of that, there's no major repairs that we're focused on. I think he's thinking that there might be some more roof work that has to happen, but he's done a fair amount of it himself. Were you hearing something different than that?
No, I was hearing that there was just some small things that needed to be attended to. And I just wondered who was doing that, if he was doing it, or if we were, how that was working.
Yeah, so Michael, the condo owner, he's taking care of the outside, and then Harbor Light is the manager on the inside. And from what I know, I haven't heard anything from Harbor Light. There's been some bills that have come in, but they're relatively small for some plumbing or some fixtures. But again, I would put it in the maintenance category, the minor maintenance category, rather than anything of anything big.
Okay, great.
So that's all. I don't know. Does anyone have any other questions on the affordable units in town? We haven't had any, complaints or any issues that have come to my attention anyway. So
good, very good.
Good.
yeah. I like that. I like it that way.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk to you about this MBTA communities regulation, the new legislation. Are you familiar with it? Has everyone kind of read something about it or understands what's happened?
In general, yeah, I was reading through the
Yeah.
documents that you sent us, but I'd
Okay.
heard about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, I have a quick little PowerPoint that I did not create. It was created by CHAPA, Citizens Housing and Planning Association. And, they've given us permission to use it. So I thought I would bring it up and just go through this really quickly with you so that you also have a sense of what is going on and what we're looking at over the next few. Actually, it's a couple of years. We're a couple of years out. This is not something that has to be done immediately, but it is something that we're all talking about in the planning world and in housing. So let me just get my whole thing here. There we go. So just a little background. In January 2021, there was an economic development bill passed that added section 3A to chapter 40A. MBTA communities are required to create zoning districts that allow multifamily housing by right. So on the, just overlooking this really quickly, people I think are getting nervous and thinking, oh my gosh, if you're an MBTA community, you now have to allow, 10-story buildings everywhere in your town. So it's not the case. And I don't feel like it's anything that we need to really worry about. I think right now the guidelines are being drafted and communities are being asked to comment on these guidelines. So the Department of Housing and Community Development has taken this new legislation and they're trying to draft some guidelines for communities to understand what it is that's expected of them. So to start out with, the statutory requirements say right now that the zoning has to allow multifamily housing by right. That means you can't require a special permit or a variance for people to create multifamily housing. It has to be in a particular zone. This word they use of reasonable size, that is still yet to be determined, and each community will have its own reasonable size district. This minimum gross density of 15 units per acre is something they came up with. I'm not really sure how they came up with this determination, but something that is anyone familiar with the Willow Street project in Hamilton? That be it's right in the right behind, I think it's almost behind that drugstore.
Behind where Max used to be.
Yeah. So that's a 40B. That has 18 units in it.
It looks huge too. It looks absolutely.
It looks big, but that is on less than an acre of land. So when I first saw this 15 units per acre, because I know a lot of you live on houses, single family home that has more than an acre of land, a lot of people in Wenham do. So when you think about, well, how could you put 15 units on my property? Something like that is what it looks like. That also has a septic system with it, that one in Hamilton, and it has a commercial entity on the first floor. They're putting, I think it's a bakery's going in there actually. And then above there's 9 on the second floor and 9 on the third floor. So the idea that 15 units per acre sounds pretty dense. It's not that dense. It's definitely doable. One of the provisions of this legislation is that these zones cannot have age restriction. They're saying it has to be suitable for families with children. Not quite sure what that means yet exactly. And this district cannot be more than half a mile from your commuter station, which, as you all know, is the Hamilton Wenham station up here. So those are some of the requirements right off the top that have to be looked at a little bit deeper. So when they're trying to determine reasonable size, they're saying at first it must be at least 50 contiguous acres, have the unit capacity to meet or exceed certain unit requirements based on municipalities' assigned category of MBTA community. That just means each community has a different not each community, but the different types of stations have different designations as to what kind of community you are. You can be a subway. We are a commuter rail station. So our density or our requirement for number of units is a little bit less than is required for someone that has a more active train station. So let's just go to the next one. So these are the different types of communities. The rapid transit has the subway station, service that has the MBTA bus stops. The commuter rail is what we are, within its border or within a half mile of its border, and no subway station in or within a half mile. So that's us, and a lot of the other outlying communities along the train line. There are 8 adjacent communities. So those are the communities that don't actually have a station in them, but that are next to, are close enough to the station, communities that do have them. So these are there's a map showing how it's laid out. Here we are up here, Wenham, so we are a commuter rail. The lighter blue are the bus ones, the dark ones are where the subway stations are. Boston is exempt from this requirement. They already have density enough. But the further out you get, the more you go to the commuter rails or MBTA adjacent. So this is where the capacity requirements get a little tricky and get a little, the numbers will probably be frightening when you first hear them. But so if you're a commuter rail community, 15%, it says, of your housing stock is the amount of units that you have to allow for in your district. None of this says that you have to create any housing. There's no affordability component and there's no mandates that the housing is built. This is just that we have to have a district that allows for it. So 15%, you would think, okay, we only have 1,400 right now, about 1,404 is what we're basing these numbers on. So, and I'm sorry, I should have had this number up, but 15% of that, let me grab that. Hold on. 144 is about 210 units, right? So you'd say, oh, so we have to have the capacity just to build 210 units. They're not, no, they're not doing that. There's a bottom, and that's 750 units. Every community has in this thing has to have either the 10, 15, 20, or 25% or 750. That's the lowest you can go. So when you think of it, if we create a district that could allow for 750 units to be built, that's a 50% increase in number of units in our community. That's half of the units that we have currently. So that's why some of these numbers you get like, that doesn't make sense. Why? How could we possibly allow 750 new units to be built in Wenham? Where would they go? How would that work? So, and again,
Margaret, and they have to be within a half a mile of the train station.
Yeah,
which is
they do.
That's sort of the issue.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. And so all of this is going to get, the community will get looked at specifically to Wenham. This will get looked at specifically to us and say, all right, so within a half a mile of your train station, first of all, we only have 250 acres within a half a mile of our train station that are in Wenham. They base these numbers on, they say that if you took the train station and did a circle around it, you're going to get about 500 acres if there's
We
a
can't do that.
circle. But if you look at ours, we're cut in half. So we've only got 250 acres to work with. And that's a question that I don't have the answer to, whether we will be required to allow for that many acres in Wenham, or whether we'll split it with Hamilton. We don't know that yet. They'll be looking at things like your topography, your soil conditions, the ability to do septic, what's already there, what's already built in that area, and things that may qualify. So it's
Margaret,
really up in the air.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Given that it is a Hamilton Wenham train station,
Mhm.
each town has to hit, I mean, by the way that they're currently suggesting, each town has to do it, or the community within a half mile of
Yeah,
that
I
train station?
don't know the answer to that, Joe. I'm not sure. And that's one of the things that we'll need to get clarification on as it unfolds. So they're saying that housing suitable for families can have no age restriction, because sometimes you'll say you can do multifamily housing, but it has to be 50 over. And you can't have legal restrictions on the number of bedrooms, size of bedrooms, and number of occupants. So one of the things that I thought about this whole part is, well, what if you get a developer who wants to come in and build 15 units on an acre, 15 or more, or 30 studios or one bedroom units? how is that suitable for families? So and by them, they're just kind of letting it go, letting people kind of do whatever they want. So that's just one of the questions I had too, was, well, how is this all going to be suitable for families? What's most economical for a developer? I don't know. I don't know whether a developer, whether it's better for them to build 1 and 2 bedroom units only, or 1 in studios. You know, at least 2 or 3 bedrooms, I think, is necessary if you're going to have families.
Family, yeah.
So, so this location of districts is, yes, they have to be within a half a mile of a transit station. They'll determine exactly how it's measured. There's a possibility that you could break it up. Like you could say, all right, we're going to have 25 acres in this area and, 10 here, whatever, 15 here, and it could get broken up. It's going to be really, someone sitting down with the pencil and crayons, and that's my choice. My best way of doing mapping and planning is my crayons and colored pencils. So we'll really have to look at the land within a half mile, what's already there, what is the topography that's happening, and ability to create septic. And the state is willing to work with the communities. That's what I'm getting from everybody, that the state is not going to bring the hammer down and say, look, you guys, we don't care. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. They're not doing that with this. They understand this is a new way of thinking for a lot of communities. So they're going to really work with communities to create what's best for everybody. So this compliance thing is if you're not compliant, if you don't create the district, they're saying that you cannot get you won't be able to qualify for funding from 3 different categories of funding with the state: the Housing Choice Initiative Program, the Local Capital Projects Fund, and Mass Works Infrastructure. Wenham, as far as I know, does not get money from any of these funds, and has not gotten any money from these funds. That doesn't mean to say we may not want to in the future. Mass Works is for infrastructure, and typically if there's a large project in a community, you can go to Mass Works to get funding. So some communities may just say, well, we don't care. We're not creating zoning for that. We don't use that money, and we don't need that money, especially some of the more affluent communities, out Weston or wherever, Western Massachusetts. They may not want it, and they may just let it go. So one of the things that I heard is, if you're not, you may have a situation where a developer might want to come in and say, I want to build this multifamily housing, because they can by right. You're an MBTA community. And you say, well, we don't have any zoning for that, so no, we don't have to let you do that. They could challenge you in court. And that, I think, is where you're going to see that happen. Some communities are going to say, we're just going to ignore this, and you'll find a developer who will challenge it. And then and like a lot of these things, it plays out in court, and and after the court comes down with their rulings, then you make those determinations as to what you actually have to do. So there is some compliance that we have to take care of right away, well, by May. And that is simply giving the regulations draft. The regulations draft has to be given to the select board, and the community has to have, not the community, but the select board has to have an opportunity to comment on it if they choose to. And we have to fill out a form saying that we've done that. So by May 22nd, we have to include a presentation at a meeting of the select board, submit the community information form and our updated parcel maps to DHCD. By December of this year, we have to either have a regulation drafted, or let DHCD know that, no, we don't have a regulation done, and we need more time, or, we're working on it. But we have to let them know we're working on it, and that we'll have an action plan ready by the end of this year. To adopt the zoning, the deadline to adopt zoning for a commuter rail community is December of 2024. So that still gives us almost 3 years, right? So we have almost 3 years to actually create the zoning overlay and adopt it at town meeting, because it will have to go to town meeting to be voted on. And again, it's just, it's a zoning, it's going to be in our zoning bylaws. It's an overlay district. It will have some parameters. It will explain setbacks. It will explain, height requirements, things like that they will have to adhere. But as long as they adhere to those, they don't have to go for a special permit or any variances. So so we do have a long time.
I have,
Yep.
I have a question, Margaret. I'm starting to think about a half a mile around the station, and there's some private property that's around that. There's no eminent domain issues around
No.
creating the district or anything like that, is there?
No, and that's the thing, Huntley. If someone's property falls into our district, they can look at their home and say, I think I'm going to make this a 3-family because it's in the district and I can do it. They may say, I think I want to add a building back here with 2 units, or I want to, they have to be at least 2 units in each building. And again, there are certain guidelines that the state is saying you have to adhere to, but there's the town has no responsibility to create any housing, and nor will we. That is not something we're doing with this. There's no minimum requirement that we create housing. There's no affordability component, other than if a community has inclusionary zoning, which we may want to start thinking about. I think there's going to end up being a way for us to incorporate this by right multifamily housing into inclusionary zoning, so that we can say, well, if you can do it by right, but we do need you to make a couple of them affordable, or a certain percentage of them affordable. Again, that's all got to be figured out. We don't have that. Nobody knows that for sure yet.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I have a map too that I can show you that shows what a half a mile looks like, and it'll show you the properties that are in there.
Oh, good. I was gonna
yeah.
ask for that.
I know. I hesitate to show it because I don't want people to get nervous and go, oh, my neighbor's gonna, put 50 units right there, So but I will bring that up. Again, there's a public comment period until March 31st. You are all welcome to go onto the state's website and look at these guidelines, the draft guidelines, and make comments. If there are things that you think about that you think don't make sense in them.
I have a question, Margaret. Since we don't have to make this housing affordable, wouldn't this go on to the ZBA instead of us? Why is it us?
It's not going to go to you. It's not going to come to you at all. No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm just letting everyone know that this is something that the planning board will absolutely take over this.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it didn't seem like something we could do it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because what we will be able to ask for is site plan review.
Okay.
To have, they'll have to bring us the plans and show us. We'll make sure they do have septic, they do have the parking, they have all the requirements that they're allowed, that they need by right. So, but no, I won't, none of these will, if someone does want to do this, it wouldn't come before this board. I'm just, all the boards and committees know that this is something that we're looking at. There'll be a lot of discussion about it over the next year or two, for sure. There will be technical assistance available, and I'm looking at a lot of different options. So town council will be part of this for sure. The Mass Housing Partnership has a toolbox that they're using. MAPC is offering technical assistance. So the state knows this is a lot for especially smaller communities like us to figure out. and to not get like scared and say, what, we can't have someone build 750 units of housing in Wenham. And that's not what's going to happen. I think once this really goes through, what it may look like is some of the larger properties, within the half mile, depending on where we create our district, may think it's feasible for them to turn their larger homes into 3-family homes, or to like the extra lots that they have or something, but I don't see anyone building, whatever, 3-story, 25 unit buildings in Wenham. But again, there's a lot of options, and there'll be opportunities, and it's all going to get worked out. But I don't want anyone to panic about any of it. I just wanted to kind of let everyone know this is what we're looking at. And the master plan process will be getting started in a few weeks. We are getting our proposals in tomorrow. Tomorrow's the deadline for proposals from consultants. So part of that RFP we put out also included information about this situation that whoever does our master plan has to take into account that Wenham is an MBTA community and how we have to create some kind of zoning for that. So yeah, there'll be lots more talk about it, but I just wanted to kind of bring it to your attention, make you aware. Some really good websites out there with a lot of good information that's easy to read. They're making it as understandable as possible. I would also encourage you to go to the draft regulations and take a look at them. Gives you a little bit of insight into what it really is. Yeah, so if you want, let me find that map. And I can bring it up at least. Let me see, map showing. One of the websites I was on too actually has a mapping program that you can go on and check it out. This one that I created is really it's not 100% accurate. It's just an estimate of approximate communities. Let me approximate properties. Get that. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So you can see, the circle is right kind of cut in half. These are the properties that are mostly, it goes all the way down to Larch Row. Joe, I think you're right there, aren't you? So you turn your house into a multifamily.
That's the only way I would be able to afford moving out to Florida.
That's right. Then you can move to Florida.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Don't let that guy
Could you zoom that like 1 or 2 more times? Just
zoom in, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's much better.
Go
Yeah.
on more.
Yeah, thank you.
Ooh.
Zoom.
Cool.
Oh.
Oh, my street's not in there. Doggone it.
So again, this is the half-mile radius around. This is actually the train station, but this was the only property I could pull up and do a 300-foot from. So it may, extend a little this way or a little that way. These are just the properties themselves. Now, whether they say to us, say this number 16, I think it's
Isn't that
yeah.
isn't that affordable? Where's
Enoch Village.
Enon?
Enoch Village, yeah.
Yeah. Enon Village is right here.
That is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So here's
okay,
Enon Village.
Yep,
Oh, okay.
gotcha. And then
Yeah.
16
Yep.
is Pansies, or 19. I can't see what that number is. I think that's
16.
19.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so
I'm sorry,
these-
19 on 1A. Part of
Over here.
that one. Yeah,
That's
part of that's
actually,
already
I
licensed.
believe, yeah, the Haley property, I think.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
called. Yeah. So this
And
is
some of it's
already zoned.
I think.
Yeah, this is zoned for business. And again, this is not something that we can't tell anyone what they should do with their property. This is up to individual property owners. I'm sure developers are calling him every other week.
Yeah.
But like the Pingree Park is certainly not developable. The school is in here. There's a lot of wetland, a lot of, the river runs through here. We have to come up with a 50-acre overlay, I think. I'm hoping they tell us we only have to do a 25-acre overlay and that each community can do 25 acres. Because I think we're going to be hard pressed to find 50 acres in here that
Yeah,
for an
Yeah.
overlay.
because we've got so many wetlands. I mean, if we
Yeah.
want to draw this out, we
Yeah.
can't really say it's buildable land.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's, again, so many questions. There's going to be a lot more questions and answers for quite a while on this one. So, but yeah, that's all I kind of wanted to let you guys know. I don't know if anyone has, I'm sure you have questions. And I love to answer them if I can, but I've been going to a lot of webinars on it. There's one next week again on the Mass Municipal Law Association is doing theirs. So that'll be interesting to have a bunch of lawyers talking about it. I've been on the ones for DHCD and the people who drafted it. But I think the lawyers will be the best ones. They'll have all the good ideas. Yeah, so that and again, this is just informational for you. There's nothing that this board has to do, and there's nothing that I think you will have to do. During the next year or so with our conversation on the master plan, this will be discussed. And how do we fit this into our plan going forward? What does it look like for Wenham?
When your concern was that that people be able to stay in their homes and turn them into multifamilies in Wenham, does this satisfy some of your concerns that you've been talking about? When?
Hello?
Can you hear us, Wayne?
Yeah, what's the question?
One of the topics that you brought up is being able to make some of the single family homes into multi-family homes. So some of the elderly or other people can afford to stay into town. Does this help your concern about that or not?
I think it potentially, Judy, it can. My pitch was accessory dwelling units. Without regard to how many families there. Typically, you would have one family if you created an apartment or converted your garage or something. It seems to me that when they sort this out, if we in this zone, accessory dwelling units were of course made by right, and you were attempting, or you were trying to comply with the intent of the regulation, that would be fine. In other words, it wouldn't be it would be one unit. You live in one and you'd have one other one. So you wouldn't have to have a whole apartment building or a 3-family or something. So I would hope that would be an attempt to comply with the regulation.
And again, it's not complying with the regulations when I certainly see that as something that the town could allow for. Because the state is saying you don't have to have 15 units per acre. You just have to say you can have that many. We can say, if you have an acre of land and you want you have to have at least two units, I think, as far as I can tell. So
well, I could see, Margaret, I could see that shaking out here in the whole process. I mean, if we were to adopt a provision in our zoning bylaw, without regard to this, to allow for accessory dwelling units, which that I would advocate, is a way of creating a lot of housing in Wenham that's affordable.
Yeah.
In other words, if that is not exactly addressed by the regulations here, but we're making an attempt. If we did that, we'd be making an attempt to, in spirit of the law, to provide housing.
Yeah.
And even without regard to the, the circle that you have there. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you're going to have accessory dwelling units by regulation in this circle, essentially, why not do it through the whole town?
Hmm.
And so now
Yeah,
you'd be adding not 700 units, but you might come up with, potentially, 150 units, 200 units or something like that. Then you go to the state and say, hey, wait a minute, town of Wenham is trying to do what it can to comply with.
yeah. And again, I don't think that you're gonna get a lot of people in this half-mile radius who do want to build multifamily housing. I think depends on developers and, if the town doesn't want to build them, they don't have to build them. If people don't want them in their neighborhood, they don't have to build them. We just have to allow for them. It's like, right now we allow for, we have like, I'm trying to think with the flexible development regulation. It is a special permit, but, we can allow for flexible development. People aren't building flexible developments all over town. They did Wenham Pines. There's a couple of them, but it's not something that's going to crop up everywhere. So,
But it might
It
be
does.
something that would be good for, say someone was, had a piece of property and they were going to sell their property. It'd be good to know that you could have that option as a new buyer coming into the community. It's just good information for people to have if you're in that zone, that it's a possibility that you could choose to do something like that down
yes.
the road.
right.
So, I mean, if, as the regulation gets clearer, it's probably something that would be helpful for realtors to be able to share.
Yeah.
This is a new regulation, and, and the people that are in that zone can make the choices according to their particular needs, which is nice that there's the flexibility to make that choice depending on your particular need.
Yeah.
If, however, another question is, say somebody wants to put, multiple units on their property and they have abutters. Could there be some people that would say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't want that much? I mean, would there be then an issue with your abutters if you chose to do it?
No, it's by right.
Yeah, by right. Okay.
That's one of the sticky things about this. It's not a special permit. It's not a variance. It's not discretionary. It's by right. They'll be allowed to do it if they follow all of the guidelines and the regulations that we set up, meaning, the dimensional regulations and health and safety. Yeah, I don't think neighbors will have a right to stop them. It's not like 40B. You're not going for a comprehensive permit. It's not like any of those things.
Margaret, to that
So,
point,
Yeah.
Margaret, to that point, does a site plan review, which would be applicable, a site
Yes.
plan review, does that include a conservation approval?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. All those things have to come into play.
Well, and for example, and somebody made the point here, there's a lot of wetlands here. And you would never get a building permit in a lot of what we're looking at here.
Right.
Yeah,
If it's a conservation, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was going to say, I think what I would like to see impressed upon the ZBA is that to have a view of Enon Village, knowing that that's most likely going to have to go through some level of rehabilitation over the next decade. This might, given that it fits within it, it opens up new sources of funding. It might be something that could be viewed, if the ZBA looks at it this way, it might be a nice way to try to scope out how we would want to see Enon Village redone.
So the problem,
what it could
the
be
problem with Enon Village, Joe, is that's a housing authority property. Enon Village, I don't think I think that's one of the areas that may be, like, we're not going to be able to put our overlay there. Enon Village has its own ability to build and do what they want there. It's not necessarily, I think, gonna be part of this, but we'll have to look into that one closely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I would like us to have the optionality that if the housing authority wants to think outside the box and how to join efforts with something else, that the zoning rules that we put in place would be beneficial to them, not hindering any level of joint ventures that they might have in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's fantastic, Margaret. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
spending all the time on this. It's kind of,
sure.
it is an interesting thing, and I'm definitely aware, no, it might be something that could benefit me, which I'll recuse myself.
Yeah, of course. I think it will benefit some people. And if it's done well, I think it will be a good thing. Again, there's no real affordability to it. So that's something I think we have to look at, and because we don't want our numbers to get skewed either. Again.
No, but if we can try to scope it out so that it makes it easier for some affordable to be placed
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
So,
That Willow Street project in Hamilton, that's a Harbor Light project. It's finally getting built. They're having the lottery for those. Those 1-bedroom units, their affordable rent is $1,900 a month
oh, for a 1-bedroom?
for a 1-bedroom. The 2-bedroom is $2,200 or something ridiculous. I thought, how is that affordable?
I heard a talk from Harbor Light that says that there is sort of a scale of the formulas for figuring out affordable. Because I
Yeah.
said the same thing in a meeting once with Harbor Light. Why? They said, oh, it can be lower depending on this formula of where you live and the economics
Yeah.
of the area. And so because that's not affordable in my mind.
I don't think
But
so either.
it fits within this particular formula that they say
Yeah.
is available.
Yeah. So, but if you have time, take a ride up there. It's Willow Street in Hamilton. It's right. See this on the
Behind the
Up there.
Salem 5 parking lot, you can
Yeah,
get it from
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You can get a good view from there, a very good view from there. Behind the Black Cow in that
Yeah,
area.
behind the Black Cow, you can really
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Can you see
Yep.
right here, this is Willow Street?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's right in here,
right.
right on the line.
I think it looks huge. I
Yeah,
was very surprised when I saw it.
yeah. I'm actually gonna go take a look at it just to see a little more closely how it looks, but the reason I brought that up is because that is a 15, that's an 18 unit building. So for you could, something a little smaller than that would qualify as 15 unit per acre.
Okay.
And I talked to Board of Health agent. He did explain to me that you can get a septic system in those smaller areas.
Margaret, what's number 7?
What's number 7?
Yeah, the shaded area did it.
Oh, that's the Enon Village.
Well, then there's another 7
This
Up.
here,
No,
up.
that's not number
this
7.
one,
There's another 7 up near Pingree Park.
this.
Oh, I meant
Yeah.
number 7 down here, right there.
Yeah, these are just lot numbers, map and lot numbers.
So that's Eno.
Yeah, that's Enon
That's
Village.
Enon.
That's their property. This is
Joe,
their
I
property.
think it's worth taking a look at that, as you were talking about. Housing authority is, but they can't be such an independent entity, a state entity, come to think of it, that they would be hindering, I wouldn't think they would, the state would want them to hinder the effort the town of Wenham is making here to comply with all this. They can't just say,
Well,
okay.
I mean, I think Brad was, may he rest in peace. Brad Hill was talking about that a trend that he was seeing is that housing authorities were starting to merge into, or essentially giving some of their sovereign right away in an ability to try to serve more people and to rejuvenate their properties. So I think because the Wenham Housing Authority has been independent for so long, we know that it might not have to be that way going forward, mostly when Maplewood's comes up, because in many cases, they'll be sourcing their people from Enon.
That's true, yeah.
So we'll see a lot of, I think Enon will have to see that it needs to change a little bit. Or at least we want them to have the option.
Great.
Wonderful. So it's any further discussion on this, or should we move on? Okay. So I don't think we have anything else on. Is there any new business that people want to bring up? I'll take that as a no. So if it's, do I have, if that's the end, is there anything else that we, do I have somebody to?
Oh, yeah,
propose a-
Joe, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You
yeah,
know what?
yeah.
We do need to
Oh,
set
set
up
up the time.
meeting
meeting
times. Yeah, that was one of
Sorry
the
about
big
that.
reasons we were trying to meet tonight, right?
Yeah.
So I would just ask, I don't know what everyone's time is like, but Wednesday or Thursday nights would work best, I think, for this board to meet. I don't think you need to meet every month unless you feel it, but you know.
No, what I would like to do is if we could set up 4 meetings a year, once per quarter, and then while we're having a meeting, if something's coming up, we can always do the intra-quarter meetings. But right now, I feel like we're just at a good spot to, let's just try to, and given how difficult it was to find this one, if we could just get 3 more on the books for the year.
Okay.
And Huntley, I know that you said Thursdays are bad for you. How are Wednesdays for you?
Oh, Wednesdays at 6. I have something until 5, but Wednesday at 6 would work.
Okay. Is everybody okay with thinking well, I'm sorry, I'll just throw out to start it off, the first Wednesday of the quarter. So
Actually, the
first Wednesday of
first,
April.
Joe, I'm sorry, the first Wednesdays are not good for Zoom. We have other conflicting times. So the second, third, or fourth Wednesdays.
Okay, how about
Maybe we can just get rid of
April
Zoom and it
13th.
won't be an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Erica.
So if we could meet in person, it's not an issue. You're right.
No.
Hopefully
How
by then,
about,
maybe that'll happen. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. How about Wednesday the 13th, April the
Oh.
13th?
April 13th. Just a second.
And we're talking at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
If
that,
that works.
okay, yeah.
April
13.
13th, okay. That's okay for me.
Okay. And then, okay, and then July, do we want to do a meeting in the July time period? Or do we want to try to push that?
I go.
Okay, no July.
I'd like to skip that.
Should we then push it to August 10th?
Can we not meet in the summer? Unless there's something.
Okay. How about September? Yeah, no, that's okay. Just how about September 14th?
At this point, yes. I might have,
Yes.
Okay,
at this point, yes.
okay, let's put that on the docket just so that we have something. And then again, none of these are set in stone, but and then the next one would be October 12th. No,
October is, I have a huge event. The month of October for me is a no.
Oh,
I can't
that's
do it.
right.
I can't do October.
Yep.
Go to November.
let's right
November
before, yeah, November 9th. We'll just put that in there for now, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yeah, Joe, I want to ask, are there any, programs or any projects that you think this committee wants to start to look at? Maybe take some action items, or the master plan be starting. So, I'm hoping to pull you guys into it, certainly. The master plan.
Let's
kind of
one thing that I would like for us to think about is I feel like in my mind there's 2 types of boards. There's an oversight board and then there's action boards, and I think of us as being more on towards that action side. But this idea of trying to to provide that action in a 1 hour or 2 hour framework once a quarter or once every month, with having to get agendas and everybody in the same room at the same time, I think that becomes a little bit of a hindrance. My hope is that maybe we take the trustees and we become an oversight board, but then we have each of us, based off of our desires, start to work with other committees to do working groups that don't have the shackles of agendas and such, and maybe take on a more active approach within working groups, and it helps to break down all the silos that we have. And therefore, then the trust just becomes, again, those working groups can then to report to each of the committees and the trust to summarize what they've been working on. So we turn the trust more into an oversight board with individual working groups underneath it. And again, it's not something to really, I guess I'd like you all to stew on that for a while to see if that makes sense. If it's something that, based off of that, then we can have action items that we each kind of get attached to, and then start to propagate out to form working groups.
I guess I go back to that question we've had before, like, if we have a working group, does that fall under that open meeting situation where you have to bring the public to it and you have to have?
No.
It does not.
Nope, not at all. We would not have quorums. It would not be a voting it would not be a voting body.
Yeah.
It would not be by having a working group. It might be one or two of us, but it would incorporate people outside of our committee or outside of the trust. So it wouldn't happen to hit any of the open meeting laws. So it'd be much more about the trust through our planned meetings would say, here are the action plans that we'd like to work on. One or two of us each volunteer to build a committee or to build a working group outside of that framework of the open meeting laws. And then we delegate as the trustees, we delegate some of that effort to figure out, to hash out the different issues and such in a smaller group that doesn't have the open meeting rules or open meeting law restrictions.
And then that,
as long as we don't have quorum.
Yep, as long as you just have two people or few.
Yeah, no quorum and outside people population.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Maybe this committee can start to think about some of the zoning issues that we're going to be facing. Inclusionary zoning, ADU housing, things like that you might want to see to start happening in town.
Exactly, and that it's more than just us, right? It's how do we get
exactly
like ADU? How do we maybe we start to think about, do we want to dedicate funds from us into Wish or something like that, that doesn't have we can use our funds any way we want. Maybe we can actually delegate them out to charities or to other committees that can more effectively utilize the funds that we have available to us. Again, these are just.
Can I have a question? Doesn't the select board have to approve using our funds though? We really
Definitely.
can't
So
do
I mean,
anything we want with them. That's.
well, no, I'm sorry. We can recommend to the select board to
Yeah.
fund
Okay.
these things. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, maybe a good starting point too is to look at some other programs that are out there. And I can put together a list of things. We had talked about this before, I think, but I'll make that one of the projects that I do. I can at least send you all some of the other programs that other communities use Affordable Housing Trust money for.
While you're taking that note, did we set November 9th as a meeting or not?
Yeah, if we can. Again, we can switch them around, but at least we have these 3 extra months.
Yeah.
We've set 4 for the year.
No, I just
so
want
we
to
can-
get it down on the calendar. If we're going to do it. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to call the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second
Thank you,
it.
Judy. Thank you, Huntley. So round the call. So Judy, you're an aye.
Yeah. Yes.
Huntley,
Aye.
will win.
Yes.
Erica,
Yes.
and Joe is a yes. Okay, well, thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you,
Have a
Margaret.
night.
nice rest of your week,
Good
everybody.
night. See you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.